when the homeless can vote for you, when a man can get up off a blanket and says, that's my sheriff. He's the people's sheriff. That what makes me go every day. And these are people who've seen me over the years grow, become a detective, become a police officer. And those are the people that keeps me going every day. When you can go to the hood, or you go to the street corners, or you can yell at them while you're in a restaurant and you invite them in and you sitting there just talking to them. And that's the people's sheriff.
First, I want to thank you, Sheriff McFadden, for doing this interview today.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it. Equal Justice Now is here in your city to do our conference on over policing and for bail. First, I want to ask you a question. Who is Sheriff McFadden?
Well, Sheriff McFadden is a little kid from affectionately called Elliott, South Carolina. It's about big as this room. But I was born in Sumter, South Carolina, and I would be back and forth every week to my grandparents' house and my parents' house. But I love the countryside of my grandparents' house. So I'm a little boy from South Carolina, grew up in a rural South Carolina with a very dominant family who didn't take no for an answer. And so I left home at 17, came to Charlotte, and never left.
Interesting. So how long have you been in law enforcement?
This is my 41st year in law enforcement.
Did you kind of go up through the ranks or all of it with the Sheriff's Department?
No, I was with Charlotte Mecklenburg. It was first Charlotte Police Department. I came there in 1982, came to Charlotte Police Department, stayed there for 30 years. I left, and they hired me 30 days back to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community. They said I had this special, unique appearance in the community that they wanted, so I created Charlotte Mecklenburg's Community Engagement Unit. And so I stayed there for 8 years, and then was running around the country having a great time, and somebody said, run for sheriff. And I didn't want to be a sheriff. I really didn't want to be in law enforcement at all. But when I found out the powers and the authority and the constitutional powers of a duly elected sheriff, then I said, yeah, that'll be the spot that I want to land in. And so this is my second term. I'm in my second term now.
So you like being sheriff?
Absolutely love it. I wish I've done this 20 years ago. I love it. I love the people. We don't say jail, we say detention center, and we don't say inmate, we say resident. And so if I could live inside the detention center with the residents and get up every morning and talk to my residents, that's my day. It's absolutely wonderful.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
So what would the average deputy say about Sheriff McFadden here in North Carolina?
He's different. He is persistent. He doesn't think out of the box. He builds the box for us to think out of. And if you won't ever have to ask him where he's coming from, because he's going to tell you every time. He's fearless. He's present more than any other sheriff that has ever been here. If he loves you, he loves you. If he has nothing for you, he'll tell you, and there's no need to go and talk to him, because once he writes you off, that's it. Because he's on a mission and he has a vision, and I'm going to change it. And if you want to get on that bus, you can get on it. I told him I grew up into a city where there's no stoplights, so I don't know how to stop. So if you want to get on the bus, you need to come on.
So why does the criminal justice system work here and it's failing in other places around the country?
Because I saw poverty and I saw injustice when I was coming up through the ranks. I've never lost a homicide case in my 27 years. And I saw what mental health, how it affects so many judgment. I saw mothers who lost their entire family. And so being different is meaning that I do what I can for my residents inside the detention center, but I also be in my community listening to them each and every day. And I hate panel discussions. I hate community forums because we all feel good of the talking heads there, but then what afterwards? I've never seen any community forums packed out with people that needed to be there. We have all the same people. I can give you a list of 40 people in this city. You will see them at every forum. You will see them on every panel, and we will re-award them every year for the same accomplishments that they have done. And so who watches us? The community. The community sees that. They dub me as the people's sheriff because emotional part, when the homeless can vote for you, and when a homeless man gets off a grade and says, that's my sheriff. Excuse me. When a man get up off a blanket and says, that's my sheriff, he's the people's sheriff. That what makes me go every day. And these are people who've seen me over the years grow, become a detective, become a police officer. And those are the people that keeps me going every day. When you can go to the hood, or you go to the street corners, or you can yell at them while you're in a restaurant and you invite them in and you sitting there just talking to them. And that's the people's sheriff.
I can see you take this job very serious.
I do. I do. This is a mission from God, no matter what. And that's why I'm emotional about it, because I worry how much time do I have to make people listen. I had to listen. I'll tell the story. I had to listen one time to a homeless man. And he says, gee, where you going? I said, I'm going inside this museum to do a speech on Black History Month. And he said, what you got? I had a iPad 1, had this nice speech about Martin Luther King. He says, hit him with this. I said, go ahead. What's Martin Luther King's real name? 90% of America doesn't know. It's Michael King. How did Martin Luther King's mother die? If you ask Black America, most people don't even know her name. She died playing an organ inside the same church that we go to, Ebenezer Baptist Church, by a possible follower of Martin Luther King. The speech is I Had a Dream. It's not named I Had a Dream. It's called Normalcy Never Again or Cancel Check. How did it get to be I Had a Dream? Because Mahalia Jackson was told a story. Her and Martin had a meeting, or had a conversation, and Martin told her about the dream. And while he was there in Washington, D.C., she said, tell him the dream. And he told him the dream. That very speech is not even in the Smithsonian Institute or in no museum. Somebody has that single speech in their hands and somebody wants to buy it from them. That speech is held by a person with Nike International because that's where he works now. So where did I learn all of this? From a homeless man on the street who we look over every day, who we walk by every day. But I can't. I can't because I'm his sheriff. Sorry. And I see these people. And so when you see somebody rise up, we get excited by people just rising through the ranks. And we give them all the accolades then. But when that person on the street sees you come up through the ranks and says, that's my sheriff, I am his sheriff. My responsibility is the men and women who are housed here. They wish they could be sitting in this chair. They wish they could have this suit. I'm their hope. I was told that in Germany when I went to study prison systems, correctional system before I took this job. I went to Germany and Norway. Somebody sent me they prepared me for this battle. So I would go to Germany and Norway and they prepared me. And when I was talking to this young man before I walked out of his pod, he stopped me, and my whole staff knows because I told this 1,000 times. He grabbed me on my shoulder and turned me around and he said, G Money, I may never see you again, But he said, you're going to be the sheriff in Mecklenburg County because that's what you say. He said, I don't even know where Mecklenburg County is because I'm in Germany. But he said, when you walk into that detention center, they're going to have hope. You're their hope.
When I talked to you on the phone the first time, I have to say, you impressed me. I mean, I had a bromance with you before I even met you. It was what you said, your commitment to this county, the things that you said, how you like to run your facility, your detention center. You said something that stuck out to me. You said you had 2 inmates that had not seen their attorneys in 2 years.
That's right.
Is that what's wrong with our system? Or what's wrong? Maybe I should just
Our
ask you
system's not intentional. We're not intentional. Our system's not intentional.
what do you mean by that?
You'll have money and grants, but it'll never reach here. I have to apply for it. I have to ask for it. I have to meet all the criteria for it. Then they may send me pennies, and then I'm supposed to have it. Proclamations. Somebody said it the other day, we have an executive order. Well, the executive order should become attached with executive money, executive funding, so we can have all of that. We could do better if we are intentional. I mean, intentional with these people. I love the correctional system under my leadership. I love coming in this building every day. I love going on the floors, talking to my residents. They inspire me to do more every day. I have a letter that yesterday was one of bad days. Bad day. And I'll share it with you. Bad day. Guy says, Sheriff, did you get my letter? I said, it takes about a week for me to get it. I said, I hope I get it. Yesterday was a tough day. I won't say a bad day. It's a tough day. It's a big decision-making day. And I'm sitting in my office, and one of my staff said, you just got a letter. Do you want it? And I said, yeah. And I took it, and I went to the office, and I saw it. And I read it, and I let her read the letter. I said, that's why I do what I do. He doesn't want anything. He doesn't seek anything. He's not asking for anything. When I share it to you, and I'll give you a copy of it, it's a letter of encouragement. You are our lighthouse. That's what he said. You mend the roads of success when they have potholes in it. You mend them. You take care of us. You change me. I want to come back and help you. And how all of this started? I go into the kitchen because I'll go into the kitchen and serve 1,500 meals a day, 3 times a day, because I need to know what I'm serving, who I'm serving, and what are they eating. So when I argue with my food vendor, I can tell them that I know how that food tastes. I know what my staff eat. Well, how do you know? Because I taste it. So when I'm standing there having a piece of chicken, everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm eating what my residents eat because I want to make sure that it's good. That changed his mind right then of who I was, because no sheriff ever has done that, ever.
There's a national discussion going around the country where you have the right and you have the left, and they're talking about the broken system. They're talking about bail. They're talking about the system in itself is broken. Why is it working here? Or is it working here?
Because we are intentional and it's manned. They're still having panel discussions. What did you say? They are having discussions. We have a discussion here. After a discussion, we make it happen. I told my staff when I swore everybody in this time, they'll tell you, forward thinking is not an expectation here. Forward thinking here is a requirement. Forward thinking should be done every day. My expectation is after you sign the dotted line, I expect you to come to work for 40 hours. I expect you to do your job. Do something in the 10% that we always talk about. Then we can talk and move forward. My staff fights me every day. My executive staff fights me every day because I build the box for them to think out of. Well, Sheriff, we never done it like that. And well, we're going to change it. Policies, we're going to change policies. We're going to change procedures. I did one thing that shocked my whole staff. Every deputy eats at my house on Thanksgiving and Christmas, but they don't do it now because one person spoiled it. But now I know, I said, you ate at my table, you can never deceive me. But if you do, the consequences are severe. So you let them know. I am the first black sheriff, not sheriff of color, not African American sheriff. I'm the first black sheriff that you ever seen. So you draw it in a line and let them know I'm different. I might wear the uniform when I feel like it, but I don't feel like it because the uniforms boxes me in. That I have to act a certain way, I have to walk a certain way, I have to look a certain way in that uniform. This is my uniform, a suit, every day. Now and then I'll put on a uniform if I'm swearing you in or something, occasionally. But anything after that, I'm here. And this is all I got.
Give me an example of you being intentional.
I was on a phone call with Bakari Sellers and some other people, and we're talking about rioting, protesting, and tear gas. And someone says, why are we tear gassing people when there is an agreement with the United States that the military doesn't use tear gas? I didn't know that. Congresswoman Alma Adams, I think, said it. And I was like, wow. So I came back and researched it. Sure enough, tear gas was not supposed to be used in warfare, but we use it in America. I simply made a policy that day to say we will remove all tear gas out of our arsenal. We won't use it again. Second time, I look at the George Floyd incident. We all talk about it. We all mention it. Traffic stops. It's called pretextual traffic stops. I really don't know, but if I stop for that tail light, then I can start to searching the cars and I can do everything else. If you look at most of our deadly confrontation with law enforcement, it's not about a severe traffic violation. It's about a tail light, or unsafe movement, or an expired tag. Then it becomes confrontational. So then I made a policy that my deputies will not stop you for a tail light, will not stop you for tinted windows. It has to be movement of the vehicle. So a equipment violation is not good. Now, when you stop them after speeding and there's equipment violation, then you could do that. But you will not do these pretextual stops anymore. That's intentional. It sent a message out to the community, this is not what we're going to do. And we got a lot of pushback, but I'm still going to do it. And so these are things that you have to do. Calling the residents inmates, that's degrading. I call them my residents in a detention center. This is not a jail. This is a detention center. You being detained before you go to court. So you're a resident of a detention center. We have it. Intentionality. We have PTA meetings. People who are incarcerated want to know what their children are doing. So why can't we use technology to put a camera, put a TV in a pod, tell this school to come and talk to these mothers about their kids? We have a program now, a parenting program. I'm connecting fathers and mothers with their children outside with social workers and counselors. So we have the Zoom calls that we all are on. We have those now to connect fathers and the mothers and the children about parenting, how to be a father, how to be a mother, with a social worker and people to help them bridge the gap and make their families tighter. And when they finish this 8 weeks course, the parent, the child, and the other parent will have an opportunity to be in the same room and spend about an hour together. Because now we're making better citizens. And people say this, why do you do all of this for people who are incarcerated? Well, I said, I will answer that if you answer this. How would you want me to create your neighbor? Because they're going to be out. All I'm doing is trying to create a better neighbor. And I haven't heard an answer yet.
It's impressive. Very impressive. I mean, so would you say that you are a part of the regime being the new sheriff? This is the way that we should view sheriffs across the country. Are you sharing some of your ideals
I am.
with
But
sheriffs?
will I have the opportunity to enlighten them? Because here's the opportunity. We miss so many opportunities. We're going to fly all these people in, and they're going to be at all the marches and all the stuff. So they hear them before they hear me. They'll hear them before they hear me. They'll hear Al before they hear me. Al is going to fly into the funeral. Tell Al Sharpton I said, they'll fly me to the funeral. But what do you do after that? We have just worked Jesse to death. We don't even see him no more. So then who are our leaders intentionally going in our cities, helping our cities, providing for our cities? We have houses of faith all over the United States. Are they intentionally receiving the people that I let out of my detention center? They should, all across the country. That's a movement. You can come to the detention centers with your prison ministry, but when they leave, what happens? And people say, how can you help? If you listen to me, I have a new program in my head that won't cost anybody, I say every church in America, $500, and you won't spend the $500. Because here's what happens. The disbelief and the mistrust starts after they walk out of this building. People stand on this corner every day trying to get home, no way home, because of the bus fare or the taxi fare, or they can't get home. Imagine if every church give me a $100 gift card, and I put it on an Uber account, and I give the Uber account to one of my staff members with a phone. And when that person needs a ride home, they just get them an Uber. Think about that. Every church can give me a $100 gift card. Oh, what is he going to do with $100? Oh, what? But a guest speaker comes in, and we say, we need to bless this brother. We need to show him your love and your grace. And you'll break down the altar, giving that person the money that you'll never see. I'm just asking for $100 to get somebody home after they've been incarcerated. That's being intentional. Everybody gives out book bags and school supplies. But what happens on Christmas? What happens in the middle of the year when they run out? Socks. Everybody gives out hats, sweaters, and gloves during Christmas time. What about shorts, t-shirts, flip-flops during the summertime?
I have to say, I've traveled the country and I've met sheriffs, mayors, district attorneys all across the country having this conversation about criminal justice, and I've never met anybody like you. That's why I really wanted to sit down with you and to have this conversation, because when you said a few things that just kind of stood in the back of my mind, and I had never heard it from a sheriff. And so I've been here for about a week, and I've spent time going around the city and asking people questions, and no one's really has a problem that I've heard to date. If there's somebody out there, please tell me that the problem they have with the criminal justice system here, the bail system here, I haven't heard anything. So the conversation is national. You have the president of the United States who's saying that he wants to get rid of bail. You have, the right saying that, it's important that we keep people having bail. You have the left that's saying that, we need to just let everybody out. You have cities that have tried it, that have let people out, catch and release, and crime has just gone up. So my question to you is this: how do you, and I know you're just a component of the criminal justice system here in North Carolina, how do you see the system as it's working now?
It could work better because, see, here's what the misconception of bail and bond is. People say that he needs a high bail because of the crime. The bail and bond is set for the likelihood that you return to court. Most people say it should be the opposite. Well, from my understanding, bail bond or your bail or your bond is the likelihood that you will come to court. It's not the severity of the crime. People say, well, we need to put it up. The severity. And that's mixed in a lot of cities. If you do a murder, your bond is a no bond, okay? But in other cities, we give you a bond. So the national discussion is not with the people who are making the true decisions. And that's where we fail. They don't come and talk to the sheriffs. They talk to the senators and congressmen, or they talk to somebody else. They don't talk to me. They don't talk to the bondsmen. They don't have a community meeting with the bondsmen, law enforcement, the judges, the DAs, and all that. No, they have their own separate, and then they make the white paper. And they bring the study. And then they have these nice, beautiful charts and have all the color coded, and they can tell you all of that. And you know who's suffering? The people who are watching all this on TV, who are behind bars, or the mothers who are going through poverty. A mother can't. You could have some mothers, whether the bail is $1 million or $100, still can't make it because they don't have the resources to make it. And we haven't yet talked about poverty, mistrust, being misled, being miseducated. So when you start doing all this with my residents here, we're good. COVID hit, best thing that happened to us. We had nobody to die in a 3,000 bed facility for 3 years. How do we do that? Because I had a town hall meeting. We can have town hall meetings, but do you ever have a town hall meeting in each pod? And you say, look, we up against this. This is a killer. So if one of my residents emails me and says, Sheriff, your deputy coughing too much in my pod, you got to get him out of here. See something, say something. You know the national thing, see something, say something. They see something, they say something. That's how you have to bring it. But when we talk about bail bonds and crime and everything else, if the person is being released, does he have resources to stay out? No. Do we help him? No. We point at him and we tarnish him. So what does he say? I'm going to do it again. If you're here today, I'll introduce you to an 18-year-old. You know what she'll tell you? Her parents don't want her. Her mom don't want her. Her dad don't want her. She's been in 3 or 4 different states, and she's a fugitive in 2 of them. How can you be a fugitive at 18 years old? Because you have told her you're not worth it. We don't care about you. We don't want anything from you. Go. But on Sunday, you know what we'll say? I'm blessed and highly favored. I'm blessed and highly favored. Thank God. And we'll listen. But where we do with that 18 years old when we find her dead on the street? Because see, this is what I saw. When you ask me why, because I saw all of this. When your parents been in so many wrecks and they move up into the neighborhoods and they don't want you to bring your loud car over there with the big tires. Hey, you got to stay over there because, grandma don't want you to park in a car in front of the house. That pushes you to the criminal enterprise because they'll accept you every day. They will accept you. How's your mama doing? You need something? We'll say, hey, how you doing? That's so-and-so son. He was in a robbery. Hey, but we'll leave him alone. The criminal enterprise accepts them. And that's what's wrong with our system. But again, it ain't on white paper. It's not data driven and none of this. This is common sense if we just listen. But we won't because the PhDs and the master degrees won't allow us.
You said something earlier about court-appointed attorneys. You remember the conversation?
Yes.
Can you repeat that again?
What happened with court-appointed attorneys? You can ask the average citizen who gets arrested, their families will say, don't get a public defender. I will tell you this, and I'll say this on anybody. The public defender's office in Mecklenburg County is the best I've seen across the country. The best. And we have a great relationship, absolutely wonderful relationship. These are the people who go to court multiple times. they'll have 20 and 30 murder cases under their belt in their first 5 years. The private attorney may have a couple of cases when they're starting off because they're going to ask you for $10,000. And then all of a sudden it divides. But here's what I tell people. Have the public defender, and the public offender will farm it out to a private attorney who will represent you in court, because they could have a conflict of interest. If your co-defendant has a public defender, then you need a private attorney and they'll farm it out. Who told you that? I did. You won't never hear that from our community leaders. That's called knowledge versus education, and there's a big difference.
In most jurisdictions that I've seen across the country, the court-appointed attorney pool has been really talked about as not being great. There was a situation in Texas. I met this young man, and he came to me, and his court-appointed attorney would not meet with him at all. And so he said, "Would you go to court with me?" So I said, "Of course, I'll go to court with you." I went to court with him, and the court-appointed attorney was like, "Look, if we're going to take this to trial, you're going to lose. You got to get up there and plead guilty." And he was like, I can't say it. I cannot say that I'm guilty when I didn't commit the crime." And I was just blown away that this court-appointed attorney did not really take into account that this guy was innocent. So I went over to the court-appointed. I pulled him to the side. I said, "Well, can you talk to the DA to have him plead no contest?" And so he said, "Well, let me see. I'm not really sure if he'll agree to it." And so he did, and he agreed to it. And he pled no contest, and he got probation. And that was extended. But a lot of times, the representation that individuals get in the court-appointed pool, I'm going to call it, is not always great.
No, it's not always great, but then you have to have great leadership in your office. Your public defender, the person over the public defender's office needs to be savvy enough, and he needs to have the ability to make great attorneys in the public defender's office. They have a caseload, but I will tell you, some of the best challenges I've had here is the court-appointed attorneys. The best relationships I've had with lawyers is with the public defender's office, and I have no problem. And this is, I would say, one of the best public defender's offices in the country. They are intentional, and they go. I learn a lot from them. So you just have to say, let's have a conversation with them. How many communities meetings have you seen the community have with the public defender's office? None.
It's true.
Why not? Why not? You can beat the police up, and here's the sad part. We know what you're going to ask every time. You know what you're going to say every time. We need more training. We need to have this and that. And we've been to so many of these meetings. We know what you're going to say. It really doesn't affect us. I know that's bad to say, but it really doesn't. Now, here where it hurts for you all, send us the training that you'll never see and you'll never understand. And my portfolio will look like a book. We have all this training because that's all you can ask for. So why don't you have a meeting, not with the district attorney, not with the police chief, not with the sheriff? Why don't you meet with the public defender's office of your community? Never heard of it.
I'm going to do that next time.
Or here's one that you will never see unless Peter moves from the gate. Why don't you have a meeting with all the community clergy on what you could do more in the community? Instead of standing on this side of the microphone, why don't you stand over there and let us ask you, what more could you do for your community? Bless your community so they can be highly favored.
I like that. Let me ask you a question. What do you tell the young man that's pulled over by one of your officers on how to act? What do you tell them to do?
Well, most people say, put your hands on the steering wheel, do what he says, That's the basics. That's not what you're supposed to tell them. Young man, make sure that that man hears you and understands you. That's 90% of the problem on traffic stops. The young man in Minnesota, Castillo, he had the legitimate stuff in his glove compartment, correct?
Correct.
And he was going to display it to the officer, correct?
Correct.
But the officer saw something wrong. Did he really hear him when he says it over here? Officer, I'm going to ask, okay, you're asking me to get my driver's license out of the glove compartment? Okay, I'm now going to open the glove compartment. Wait for a response. Why? Truck passing. Does the officer hear him or does he see as a movement? And then the crazy question that we always ask, why does he have to do that? Well, if you don't, then you turn into this. But did we really analyze that film closely enough to see what really happened? No. To this day, if I ask you, how many officers are on that traffic stop? 90% of America says one. It's actually two. The reason that case was not properly done because the proper people didn't help them analyze that case. So when I tell people, look, listen, and learn from it, that's what I tell this young man on the traffic stop. Look, listen, and then when you hear him, you have learned that he heard you, and then you go to your glove compartment.
What about the officer that has a chip on his shoulder?
Can you say he has a chip on his shoulder?
Well, yes.
Why? And this,
I mean, let's face it, social media is out there and we see the interactions now
yes,
up close and personal. And some of the ones that I've seen, the officer could have de-escalated. Not all, just some.
and so
One is too many.
what I say, you know who I blame? The community. Because they have allowed that officer to remain out there. You know why? Because that officer has done something to someone in the community prior to that. And you know what the community told that member of the community? It ain't no need to do nothing. Don't go down there and blame, don't do nothing. Internal affairs ain't gonna do nothing. They ain't gonna do nothing. So just forget about it. Don't worry about it. And about the third or fourth time, it happens. And then guess what? I remember. He did. I remember. Come complain. And here's what I'm gonna have to tell you. You may not get the officer fired or suspended or anything, but pattern of behavior when it's investigated will come out. His pattern of behavior, that chip that you're talking about, if the department knows about it and I have nothing to base it on, I can't get rid of him. Unions and everybody else, what's the evidence? Well, we know he's bad. Well, we heard he's bad, but will you come in? No, I don't want to come down. Y'all not going to do anything. I know that's hard to understand. And you have the community leader says, well, we don't have to do that. Well, then you're not listening to knowledge. You're listening to common sense. If we have a pattern, a practice and patterns, you hear the DOJ and all of them say about Baltimore, other cities now, St. Louis, patterns and practices, because now they're looking for it in the files of patterns and practices. If you help us with patterns and practices, we won't have these problems. We will have that officer gone with the chip. I have emails, 2 emails this week. Sheriff, can I come back? One guy sent me his news story, said it wasn't that bad. No. You can't be King Kong in my jungle. You got to go. So you got to go. You're a good officer. But what you did, I can't let you continue. You won't be the chip because you'll be gone. And that's what the community has to help them. Well, they're not going to do anything. Well, that's your fault. If you can continue to say that, then it will continue to happen. Or everybody will come out now with the Scorpion team now. Everybody would come out now and say that. But a man has lost his life. So who do you blame? You. Everybody who comes up on the TV and said, he did this to me, is it documented? No. Is it documented? No. You should feel guilty too. Because you have allowed this to continue in the neighborhood. And that's how we get rid of those officers with the chips on your shoulders who may stop my wife, may stop my kids, or may stop yours.
So it's working here.
It has to, and we're going to continue. We're not perfect. We're not near perfect. We're not near perfect, but we're going to continue to push the envelope. We're going to continue to do what we need to do, and we're going to continue to listen to the community. The community is our consumer. We never think of it like that. The community is our consumer. When you go buy something out of the store, they ask you to give your feedback. The community is my consumer of how good I am here. My residents inside this detention center is I just said this before this interview. They all having fun. My staff is all having fun in their meetings about what they're going to do. I said, y'all can say what you want to do. When I go upstairs, I'm going to ask these people, is this program working? Is this program working? Is this program working? And they're going to say no. Well, your PhD and your master's degrees and all the white papers and all the data didn't work because he said he still feels bad. He's still suicidal. He still have crazy thoughts. So then they are the consumers, so I listen to them. The food is bad. I don't care what you said. When I ate that piece of chicken this week, I'm saying, no, we can't serve this. Because my consumers give me a bad, grade, because they do grade you. But if you're their hope, you don't have to worry about it.
How do you have critics?
You need critics. Critics are the best thing. Critics are like crickets. You're going to always see them, hear them, but you never see them. And they both are used for bait. That's critic and crickets.
Can I use that?
Yes, sir. Critic and crickets. I got to have them. I got to have them. You have to have them. If you don't have critics, you're not doing something. Homeless man don't have critics. The person ain't doing that don't have no critics. You got to be doing something to have critics. Critics are good. Critics help you. Critics will stay up all night to find other people. You know when somebody stays up all night to find other people to help attack you because they can't do it themselves, that's when you're really doing stuff. They have a Facebook here of Oust the Sheriff. Oust the Sheriff. They got me with a clown picture on it and everything. And I talk about it all the time. Oust Sheriff McFadden.
Does that bother you?
No. That means I got their attention. I got their attention. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and say, I'm up. I hope you all are. Hope I didn't keep anybody up at night. But I'm out. I'm up. I'm here. What's going on today? What did I do last night? That is when you know who you are and you're intentional and you don't have the ability to stop me. Most people say that's cocky. That's just confident in who I am. And that's it. I have a family member the other day, shot him out, Caden McFadden in Arkansas. Never met the guy in my life. Never met him in my life. Just heard about him. Caden McFadden, playing football. He has probably, I lost count at 12 Division I schools that wanted him. I tried to get him to Duke. Now you got Texas Tech and he got all kind of people. I tweet him out every day. I've never met this man in my life, but he has my blood, and he has our ancestors' blood, and I got to push him. So when they would talk about Jalen Hurts doing the squats and all of that, he did them too, this past week. And so I have to push him. He's never met me. We have never even talked on the phone. But I'm going to inspire him because he has the McFadden bloodline. And that's all I tell him. You're supposed to be this. You're supposed to have 25 colonies with you because you're the bloodline. Imagine if we do the same thing for our incarcerated brothers and sisters who are justice involved instead of talking about them every day. Imagine we encourage them. I go upstairs and encourage these guys every day. You got to come back and help me. Let me pay you $32 an hour. You got to come back and help me. That's thinking outside the box. But when you build a box for others to think out of it, you have to have critics because you're not at their table. I don't need a seat at their table. You need to come and stand on a corner in my community. I don't need a seat at the table. Sitting at a table is too much time. I think at night. I think in the morning. Have a seat in my car. Have a seat on my way to work. Have a seat at my breakfast. That's the seat at my table. You come to my table. I don't come to your table. I create a table for you to come in if I let you in. And then that's scary because can he be that confident? He that cocky? Well, you keep on talking about it. Imagine I am one of 52 sheriff's officers in America have what they call a Triple Crown Award. Nobody has got the Triple Crown and the Kalia Award in the same year, but I got it in the middle of COVID. So yes, I tweet that out. 3,182 sheriff's officers in America, only 52 have the Triple Crown Award, and I got mine this year. Am I going to wear it as a ring of honor? Absolutely. Does that stop me? No, I'm saying, what's next? I ain't never satisfied.
Last question.
Yes, sir.
You talked about one of your residents. You said that he was awaiting trial for 11 years. Some would say that's what's wrong with the system.
Absolutely.
How do we fix that?
You intentionally fund it. You intentionally find resources. And when you fund it and find resources, then you be intentional about getting him help. I talk about this man so many times that they finally moved him away. But he's still incarcerated. So everybody here forgot about him. Now he's someplace else. 11 years he's waiting for a trial. Allegedly, he committed a violent crime. But 11 years, he's still waiting. But see, I don't tell people, I can't ask you to have this passion. I can't even ask you to have this desire. My wife puts on my wall in my office, honey, understand everybody doesn't have the same passion that you have. I'm driven. I'm intentional. And people say, why? Because I watched a man for my 6 years go up and down with medical. On drugs, off of drugs. 11 years. Staff here says we have watched him physically deteriorate. Now, you know what we'll do? We'll get a nice case study. We'll get nice data. We have a panel discussion. We may even have a whole forum about him. But he's still incarcerated. Look at the money that we will fly everybody in. We will pay for the food. We will pay for the hotel. We'll pay for the panel. We'll pay for the audio equipment. Why don't we invest that same money in him to give him the resources that he needs? Inside my detention center, I'm the only detention center in the state that has a behavioral health center for men and behavioral health center for women. Everybody's happy about it. Not known for that. Did I stop? No. Now I do capacity restoration. Never even heard of it. What's capacity restoration? That means the young men and women don't have the capacity to defend themselves, to help assist themselves before they go to court. Why? Because I'm looking at this 11-year-old guy. This guy has been here forever for the last 3 or 4 sheriffs. I get the readout and I said, okay, why does this say this? Because he's been here 11 years. That can't happen. So I talked to the state. Well, Sheriff, we can't do this. They finally listened and brought a program here called Capacity Restoration, and it's called RISE. Talked to the staff the other day. 9 people in the program, just started July last year. We have restored 5 people with the capacity to defend themselves and help themselves in court. Otherwise, they'll just be left here. That's being intentional. That's why it's different. But you have to. And you can't be seasonal. You can't give out sweaters, hats, jackets, and gloves and take a piece of paper off the angel tree and think you did something. Here's what a man of less means than I have. Sheriff, we always laugh. Everybody feed us during Thanksgiving and Christmas. But after that, everybody gives us stuff Thanksgiving and Christmas. They don't help us during the years. That's called being intentional.
You're impressive.
No,
No, you are.
I just want to be different. I tell everybody, I just want to be different. I just wanted to, when we die, beautiful, everybody's going to have a beautiful ceremony. Everybody, and listen, everybody ain't going to heaven. Let me tell you that. When they're in the church and everybody ain't going to heaven. But we say that we do. But you have a born date and you have a death date. And people say this all the time. But what do you do in the dash? The dash is that little thing between the day that you're born and the day that you die. That's the most important thing. That's the most important thing. They can put all these accolades in the obituary. It means nothing unless somebody from the street walks in and says, that man helped me. Today, if I show you my phone, you know what I'm looking for today in Charlotte, Mecklenburg? Today, I'm looking for a washer and a dryer. A washer and a dryer. In a city of 1.5 million, Panthers, Hornets, millionaires in the cities, but you know what I'm looking for today? A washer and a dryer. Because a young lady that I admired that was here left my facility. And she came back and she said, Sheriff, me and my son don't have no place to live. I need to find some place to live. She came back and she said, Sheriff, I don't have no place to live, Sheriff. I may have to do what I need to do to make. Whoa. I call up a guy who's been in prison, who has a great ministry, and his name is Kenny Robinson. His name is Kenny Robinson. Has a place called Freedom Ministries. Me and him hooked up during the protest and riot. Called Kenny. She opened her home for the first time. Imagine standing there and a lady puts a key in the door for the first time. But it doesn't end there. She needs food. You know what I carry around? $200 gift certificates from grocery stores. Why? Because when she said, I need something to eat, I'm going to run by her house and give her this $200 gift certificate. That's being intentional. Why? So when the church said, what can we do for you? Don't everybody give out okay, Jordan and all these other athletes, don't give out turkeys. Ask me what I need. How about if you just give me $1,000 a year? I don't want much. And I can get $100 gift certificate so I can ride around and walk in. You have to be that intentional. You know what my holiday, I don't give out, I do with my friends, because we got I'm attached to a lot of organizations. We give out turkeys and everything else. What makes me happy during Christmas? To walk around with these gift cards in my pocket. Walk in a grocery store, out of uniform. Watch the lady over there who's looking at the roast. Picks it up, but then she got to look in her buggy and see what she got in. And she got to decide whether I want this roast or do I need this detergent. And you walk up to her and say, that's a big roast. That's a big roast. You need to get it. You need to get it. And then she'll put it in the basket or somebody put it in the basket. I'm going to say, this is from me to you. She don't know who I am. She don't know nothing about me. She may. And I walk out the grocery store and I look back and she's in tears. But that's during March, April, and May. But then what happens? Because everybody probably know I got my picture on the bus going by this. They'll see it on the bus. That's the man. And what did she say? That's my sheriff. Why? That's the person who comes to the funeral. I was hungry and he fed me. Imagine a girl says, Sheriff, I thought you were going to bring me a Christmas tree. And I said, I am. And I said, April, what's so big about this Christmas tree? She said, I grew up without a Christmas tree. You should know that. I said, yeah, I do. Because I worked her mother's murder during the crack epidemic. when somebody robbed her mother and killed her going to the store. Her and 5 brothers. 2 weeks later, the house that I took them to, which is their grandmother's house, who is a double amputee with her children in the house. Poverty, they got to make ends meet because now they got 5 kids over there that they didn't have. Poverty makes them do things that they shouldn't do, but they got to support their 5 nieces and nephews. Poverty said if you sell a little bit, you may get a little bit so you can support them. It's not for your habit, it's for them. But then when somebody wants to rob you and kill you and the kids are still there, and then when the aunt and uncle is dead, you got 5 kids. That's when every family member take one of the 5 kids and take them. I can't take but one. So you go with Uncle Robert, you go with Uncle David, you go with Uncle Cheese. So you got 5 kids, everybody's less than 10 years old. Brothers and sisters didn't grow up together. But what about 10 or 15 years later, you get another murder. And you trying to find out why everybody's mad. But when they walk down to the police department, they hug you because now you're working Michael's murder. He's one of the 5. They come down with raising sand because they want to talk to the detective who working the case because why he haven't solved the case. But nobody could understand when they got into the parking lot, they all start crying. And I'm trying to, why are these people crying? Because you don't know who we are? No, I know who y'all are. Oh my God, that's who y'all are. Those are the citizens of my community. So when you ask for a Christmas tree, and I see that Christmas tree light up for the very first time in your kids. But see, everybody won't have these experiences and burning desires. So when I'm intentional, I have to be. So I'm emotional about it because I have to think about that. Because after the day, I have to be intentional to my community. No matter what this turns into, that's the judgment of me in my final days. That's the judgment of the dash. That's the accolade that you're not going to see on the obituary. When my wife says, when you die, we're not having a funeral. We're just going to have it at a stadium to let everybody come and tell us how we are and tell us who you are. Because you're trying to save everybody. It's not that I'm trying to save everybody. I have saved enough people, but I want it to so where you wake up saying, he was there for me. And that's all I want. And that's not about money. That's just being intentional. Because why? I'm somebody's hope.
Will you, our plans with our panel discussion, we're going to have a final one in Los Angeles. Will you take the invitation now to be at that panel discussion?
Oh, yeah.
And will you be my sheriff?
I'll be your sheriff, man. I'll be everybody's sheriff. I'll be everybody's sheriff. You know, that's it's good. It's good even when you change people's lives that never thought they would change.
Right.
And that's what I love about it. When you're like, man, there's no way in the world I would believe you would change. People say now, how did you change him? Because he listened. When this sheriff sat beside me and said, son, you about to make me do something they don't do in Texas. I said, well, you're going to do it. But he's good. But that's the problem that we have. And people say political and Republican and Democrat and all this stuff is power or powerless.
It's true.
It's power or powerless.
That's so true.
So it ain't about Democrat. It's power and powerless. And we should see that every single day in America.
Absolutely.
So I just want to be one of the wizards behind the curtains and get my time in Oz like everybody else. That's all I want.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Sheriff McFadden, thank you for doing this.
No, thank you.
Thank you very much.